You are 6 years old, and you are sitting in the back of a G-Wagon on the way to your first day of school in Geneva. The driver's name is Michel. He has driven you every day of your life that you can remember, which is most of your life. Your mother is not in the car. She is in Monaco, or Dubai, or at the spa in Gstad. You are not sure which one this week, and nobody has told you, and you have learned not to ask because asking produces a look from the nanny that is kind and sad simultaneously, and you do not like that look. Your father is in the car, but he is on the phone, and being on the phone is so constant a state for him that you have come to understand it as a physical condition, like having blue eyes or a deep voice. He is just a man who is always on the phone. You look out the window at Lake Geneva and the Alps behind it, and you do not know yet that this view, the water, the mountains, the morning light on the surface, is not a normal thing to have outside a car window. You do not know that there are children who ride buses. You do not know that a bus exists in the context of school travel. You know Michel and the G-Wagon and the leather seat that smells like a specific expensive thing? You will spend 30 years trying to describe to people who did not grow up in it. Your father ends the call. He looks at you. He says, "Big day." You nod. He picks up the phone again. You are 6 years old, and you already understand that love and attention are not the same thing. You are surrounded by one and rationed the other. And everything you do for the rest of your life, every excess, every rebellion, every desperate and expensive attempt to feel something real, will be a negotiation between those two facts. This is your life at every level of being the child of a man worth $4.3 billion. From the G-Wagon to the intervention, your friend's stage at 32. Every private school, every allowance, everything money can buy and everything it demonstrably cannot. Level 1, the child. You attend the International School of Geneva. Tuition, 42,000 Swiss francs per year. Your classmates are the children of diplomats, tech founders, Saudi royalty. You do not notice the money? This is the first and most defining effect of growing up in it. Not arrogance, but blindness. Water does not know it is wet. You have a nanny named Fatou from Senegal who tells you bedtime stories she invents herself, better than any book. You love Fatou more than most adults in your life. When you are 9, she leaves. The household manager restructures the staff. You cry for 3 days. Your mother buys you a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. You name it Fatou. Nobody tells you this is strange. Your father appears at 2 birthdays out of 7. He sends gifts from wherever he is. A remote control helicopter from Singapore, a telescope from Tokyo. The gifts are wrapped by an assistant. You know this because the handwriting on the cards changes every year. You are 12, and the world is a theater set built around you, and you do not know it. And you are, in the way only children in these circumstances can be, perfectly lonely. Level 2. The boarding school. Le Rosé, the most expensive school in the world. 130,000 Swiss francs per year. Campus in Rolle on Lake Geneva, winter campus in Gstaad. Your classmates include a Qatari prince, the daughter of a Russian oligarch under EU sanctions, and a boy named Bryce whose father founded a payments company and who has the confidence of someone never told no about anything that costs money. You discover 2 things at La Rosie. First, there is a hierarchy even here. The truly wealthy are distinguished not by what they spend, but by how little they mention it. The nouveaux arrive talking about their jets. Old money does not mention the jets because the jets are as unremarkable to them as bus routes are to people who take buses. Second, you are unhappy. This is surprising because you have been told, implicitly and by the entire architecture of your life, that you have nothing to be unhappy about. Unhappiness requires a reason, and you have no reasons. This is its own kind of suffering. You start drinking at 15, not the way teenagers drink, furtive, excited, coughing on warm beer. You drink with the calm methodology of someone self-medicating. A bottle of Côte de Rhône from the school's contraband supply chain. Alone. In your room. Your father visits once in 4 years. He attends the spring concert, you play cello adequately, and checks his phone twice during your piece. He takes you to dinner at a restaurant in Rolla where the chef comes to shake his hand, and you understand that your father is more real to this chef than he is to you. You graduate with grades that reflect your intelligence, which is genuine, and your effort, which is not. You are admitted to Imperial College London. Your father's assistant emails congratulations. The email is warm and specific, and you suspect it was written by an AI. Level 3, the student. London. You live in a flat in Notting Hill that your father owns. Purchased in 2011 for £1.8 million, now worth £3.4 million. Your monthly allowance, £8,000. More than your economics tutor earns teaching and marking papers combined. You study management. You attend lectures with a sincerity that surprises you. You expected to feel superior and instead find yourself genuinely interested in how systems work, how value is created and extracted. You are better at it than most classmates. This is one of the inconvenient facts about growing up wealthy. The advantages are so comprehensive that genuine talent becomes unverifiable. You cannot know if you are smart or simply well prepared. A girl named Amara from Birmingham, her father drives a taxi, her mother works in NHS administration, explains once, without malice, what it is like to apply for a student loan. You listen. You understand the facts. You cannot feel the weight of them. This gap between understanding and feeling is the central disability of your upbringing. You drink less. You replace it with cocaine, which is abundant in a certain stratum of London student life and which feels, at 20, like a solution and is a postponement of a reckoning 4 years away. Your father divorces your mother. He marries a woman named Valentina, 31, Croatian. The wedding is on a yacht in Dubrovnik. You give a toast that is gracious and brief and costs you something you do not name until therapy 2 years later. Level 4, the position. You join your father's holding company. Not at the bottom. You are not naive about this. You join as an associate in the strategy division, reporting to a man named Henrik who has an MBA from INSEAD, in the manner of someone who has spent 20 years being carefully diplomatic about the fact that his boss's son occupies a role he could have filled better. You like Henrik. He is precise and generous with his knowledge and says nothing about the situation except through a slight, controlled tightening around the eyes whenever your father calls the office directly. You feel guilty about Henrik in a way you cannot fix. You do your work and hope the work speaks for itself and understand that in this office it never entirely can. Your work is actually interesting. The holding company has stakes in 12 businesses across 4 continents: a Norwegian shipping logistics firm, a Portuguese real estate developer, 2 Kenyan fintech startups, a German media company that owns regional newspapers that are all losing money for reasons everyone understands and nobody wants to say out loud. You spend 6 months doing due diligence on a potential acquisition in Vietnam. You travel to Ho Chi Minh City 3 times. You drink iced coffee on a plastic stool outside a banh mi shop at 7 in the morning and feel something you do not feel in Geneva or London or Dubrovnik. Anonymity. Nobody knows your father here. You are a man with a laptop and a per diem. It is the closest to ordinary you have felt. Salary, 90,000 euros per year. This is a real salary for a real job, and you have insisted on it being market rate, which is an integrity point that costs you nothing because your allowance continues at a level that makes the salary decorative. You know this. You feel the knowing of it as a low-grade nausea that you have learned to live with the way people live with tinnitus. Not gone, just background. You meet a woman named Sophia at a conference in Vienna. She works in impact investing. She is from Buenos Aires. She has a directness that you find disorienting because directness is not a quality you encounter often in the circles where everyone is managing their relationship to your father's money. You date for 8 months. She ends it. She says, gently but completely, that she cannot tell which parts of you are you and which parts are the money. She is not wrong. You cannot tell either. This is the honest reason the relationship fails, which takes another year to admit. Level 5, the excess. There is a period. You will refer to it later, in the vocabulary of recovery, as the period. At the time, you call it your life. You are living in a penthouse in Dubai. Your father's. You are using it while he uses the Monaco apartment. The penthouse has a pool on the terrace that you use twice and a kitchen that you use never. Dinner is restaurants. Breakfast is delivered. The cocaine is better in Dubai than it was in London, and easier to obtain through the social infrastructure of a certain kind of international wealth that clusters in the marina and in the private rooms of clubs where the bottles arrive with sparklers, and everyone is celebrating something that nobody can name. You spend 340,000 euros in 11 months. Not investing, spending. On clothes, on weekends in Mykonos and Ibiza and Zanzibar, on a watch that costs 88,000 euros that you lose and do not report because reporting means explaining. On dinners for 12 people you have known for 6 weeks. On substances consumed without the minimal precautions you once maintained as a form of self-respect. Your father calls. Not often enough for the calls to be a pattern, but often enough that you cannot pretend the distance is accidental. He says you look tired. You are in Dubai on a Tuesday afternoon and you look tired. He says he is worried. You say you are fine. The conversation lasts 4 minutes. He takes another call. A man you meet at a dinner in Palm Jumeirah, Dutch 45 in commodities, tells you something that cuts through the ambient noise of that period like a signal. He says, the children who have everything and do nothing with it are not failures of character. They are failures of architecture. Nobody built them a structure they had to hold up. He says it casually, like an observation about the weather. You think about it for 6 months. Then you check yourself into a clinic in Zurich. Level 6, the work. 18 months of actual effort. Not performing effort. The performing you have been doing your entire life, performing diligence for Henrik, performing contentment for your father, performing normalcy for Amara. Actual effort. A therapist named Doctor. Writer in Zurich who costs 320 Swiss francs an hour and is worth it, who has treated the children of the wealthy long enough to have zero patience for self-pity and considerable skill at distinguishing it from genuine pain. You see her twice a week for a year. You learn the difference. It is not a comfortable distinction. You leave the holding company. Not dramatically. No confrontation with your father, no statement. You simply do not renew your contract and you take the Vietnam work seriously in a different context. You join a development finance institution working on infrastructure investment in Southeast Asia. Salary, 65,000 euros. You live in Singapore on this salary and the allowance you have, for the first time, asked your father to reduce. He agrees. He does not understand why. You do not fully explain. The therapy is yours. You work with people who are competent and mission-driven and who went into development finance because they wanted to do something useful and not because they needed somewhere to put a resume. They treat you like a colleague. You earn this over 2 years of showing up and knowing your work and not mentioning your father unless directly asked, and sometimes not even then. A colleague named Ravi, from Chennai, Oxford educated, the sharpest analyst you have worked with, does not know who your father is for 8 months. The day he finds out, he looks at you differently for approximately 45 minutes. Then he does not. That 45 minutes is the most valuable social experience of your adult life. You do not drink. You do not use cocaine. You run in the morning at 6 along Marina Bay, and the air is thick and warm, and the city is starting, and you are, in a way that is not dramatic and not complete, but is real, beginning to build something that belongs to you. Level 7, the inheritance. Your father has a stroke. He survives. You fly to Geneva and sit in the corridor outside the cardiac ICU and drink bad coffee from a machine, and you feel, stripped of every complexity and every 4-minute phone call, afraid. Simply afraid. He is a man who does not know how to be a father, who wrapped a helicopter in Singapore and called it love. He is still your father. He recovers, slower, quieter. He calls more often. The calls are longer. He asks about Singapore, about Dr. Reiter. You have dinner in Geneva, just the two of you, at a restaurant where nobody comes to shake his hand. He puts his phone away. It is not a reconciliation. Reconciliation implies a declared conflict. It is a recognition. Two people who finally see each other clearly enough to be in the same room. The estate planning begins. Total assets, 4.3 billion Swiss francs. Trusts in Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and the Cayman Islands. Properties in 7 countries. You are one of 3 children. A half-brother from the second marriage, 11, and a sister, 32, who lives in Lisbon and has, with quiet efficiency, built a life adjacent to the money without being consumed by it. Your portion of the trust delivers income at market rates on approximately 400 million Swiss francs in assets, between 12 and 20 million Swiss francs per year, annually, for the rest of your life, without working. You read the documents in a Geneva lawyer's office with a view of the same lake you saw from the G-Wagon at 6. The figures mean you will never have to hold anything up. Never have to try. The Dutch man in Palm Jumeirah was right. The architecture was never built. Now it never has to be. You think about Ravi. About the 45 minutes. You sign the documents. You fly back to Singapore. You go to work on Monday. Level 8, the question. Your daughter is 6. Her name is Clara. Her mother is a Singaporean architect named Lin, who you met at a fundraising dinner and who had, when you mentioned your father, a measured and distinctly unimpressed response that told you everything you needed to know. You have been married 5 years. The marriage is real, imperfect, argued in, built by 2 people who chose a life that is not simply a continuation of the lives they inherited. Clara is in the back of the car on the way to school. Not a G-Wagon, a Volvo. Lynn is driving because her first meeting is at 9 and the school is on the way. Clara is looking out the window at the Singapore skyline with the calm absorption of a child for whom this is simply the view. You are in the passenger seat watching her. You think she will grow up knowing the money exists? You cannot hide it. The trust documents are real. The number on the paper in the Geneva lawyer's office is real. She will know, and knowing will shape her. The school she attends, the assumptions people make, the rooms she will enter without earning the entrance, the questions she will face at 30 that you faced at 30, which parts of me are me. The car stops at the school gate. Clara climbs out. She waves, not at you, at Lynn, and walks through the gate and does not look back. You watch until she is gone. You think about the G-Wagon, about Michelle, about Fatu, about the puppy named after her. You do not know if Clara will be okay. You do not know if what you built is transferable or if everyone who grows up inside this has to find their own way out of the same room. You hope she has good people? A Ravi. A doctor. Reiter. Someone like Lynn. You hope she has you, but you know that hope is the one thing the money cannot guarantee. The money guarantees the schools and the trust and the view. The rest is the part you have to show up for. After 41 years, that is the only thing you are certain of.